Hey guys, it's Mike with CEP TV. We're out here in Argyle, Texas with a beautiful Billabong 35 barrier reef pool. And today what we want to talk about is how to prepare your pool for cold snaps. Now, we've gotten a lot of people asking us questions. What do I do? Do I have to drain my pool out? Do I have to cover my pool? All of these questions that have come up of what do we do when we're in cold weather. So this video is going to focus on really the North Texas area. If you're further north in the country, you do have to take some additional steps. But for our North Texas customers, we're going to talk about really cold snaps because we typically don't have long periods of winter. And I'm talking about temperatures that are sustained below 32 degrees for long periods of time. Normally, we're talking about a dip down in the evening and then a rise back up above freezing during the day. So kind of the rule of thumb that we use here at Crystal Edge Pools is if you're in a position where you're going to have less than 24 hours of below freezing temperature, that would be below 32 degrees, we typically just tell you go ahead and leave everything on. Each one of these pool pumps that we install through the AquaLink system, these are all designed, and even some of the Hayward, some of our other competitor models, they're all really designed typically with a freeze protect. And the freeze protect is going to kick this pump on and override any schedule that you may have. If it senses that the temperature's below, say, 40 degrees, you can usually have a range between 36 and 40 of where you want to set that freeze protect to come on. We usually set ours somewhere in the neighborhood of about 38 degrees. But at that point in time, whatever schedule you have is going to be overridden. The pool's going to say, wow, it's too cold, we need to get water moving, and it's going to kick it on. So if this does happen and you have a schedule, don't fight it. It's protecting itself. And in those situations of less than 24 hours, we're just going to let the pool run. We also think it's a good idea, open up some of your water features and let those kind of take off. Running water, moving water typically doesn't freeze. You can even see all sorts of, rivers in the north and stuff like that where there'll be ice on the sides, but the actual flow of the water continues. Moving water typically doesn't freeze. But if you're in a situation where you're going to have more than 24 hours worth of freezing temperatures, then we recommend that you go ahead and actually shut the system off and drain the system out for all the above ground plumbing. What's underneath the ground, we're never really going to see in North Texas frost issues where it's going to settle down into the ground more than, say, 2 to 4 inches at the very most. So even if it's a week or two of sustained cold weather, not such a big deal. But the above ground plumbing is a big deal. Water expands when it freezes, and that's where we start seeing all sorts of things like fittings breaking, especially valves break. And so what we're going to do here in this video is kind of show you how to go through the process of draining your above ground plumbing, and then we're also going to show you how to go ahead and get it restarted. So having said that, the first thing we need to do is obviously we want to go ahead and shut our system completely off. So in this case here, we're turning everything off and just make sure it's all shut down. If you can, it's not even a bad idea to go ahead and throw a breaker on it. You just don't want the thing to all of a sudden go into a freeze protect mode when you have it drained. So let's talk about the drain process. What we're going to do first is, just like when we're cleaning a filter, we need to break the vacuum seal. That's done by opening up the air release on our cartridge filter. Now, no matter what kind of cartridge filter you have, or if you have a DE or a sand filter, you're still going to have a bleeder valve that will allow you to introduce air into the system and kind of just break that vacuum seal. What you're looking for is in the pump, when you begin to see bubbles coming up into the pump, that's when you're in a situation where the vacuum seal is broken. So we're going to go ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is take off the lid. Okay, you can just set it kind of to the side, and then we need to drain out the pump. Now again, whether this ends up being a Jandy pump or a Hayward pump or a Pentair pump, they're all going to have drains that are on them, and we want to get that water out of the pump so it can't expand and break any of the plastic that's in there or any of the other working parts. So after we've opened this up, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to pull these two plugs out. One we call kind of the pump bowl, and these are CEP terms, not technical terms. This is kind of the bowl where all the pump water stays in for priming. We want to drain that out. We also want to go ahead and drain out the pump chamber as well. just put your plugs to the side here while it's draining. We're leaving this lid off intentionally to make sure that this vacuum seal does not start back up again with the pump. We want to make sure that everything's open, air can be introduced into the system, it can just drain right out. The second thing we're going to deal with is your filter. Now again, no matter what kind of filter you have, it's going to have a drain plug on it. With this one, we have a drain plug on the back here, and we want to let all that water get out of our filter system. So we're just going to go ahead and drain that all down. Again, make sure for now we're just putting these things where we know we can get at them. But just go ahead and let the system drain out. We also come over to our heater. All of your heaters, no matter what they are, this is what we call the heat exchanger. This is where it's bringing cold air or cold water in and sending out hot water. Every heat exchanger on any kind of a heater is also going to have a drain plug, and these are the first things to go when things freeze. Heat exchangers are notorious for being the first thing on your pool equipment to go. Go ahead and pull this plug out as well. And we're just gonna go ahead, if you have a Jandy bypass, you're gonna go ahead and just kind of open it up to make sure that it can get through there. We wanna make sure that, again, like I said, as this vacuum seal is breaking, it's also introducing air in, it's letting water out. Even though you're not seeing anything dripping now, it is going to continue to flow out of there. You'll see now it's starting to flow pretty good as air gets introduced into the system. And then finally, if you have a UV system, you're also going to have a drain on your UV. On our CMP Dell UVC 50s, you're just simply going to pull that plug out, you're going to open this up, and then again, we're just letting all of the water come out of the system. Now, if you have an older system that doesn't have drain plugs built onto it, have no fear. Pretty much most of the equipment for, the last recent past is gonna have quick disconnects at every point. Feel free, if you don't have a drain plug or if you can't get the drain plug off, just go ahead and unhook your quick disconnect at the lowest point and pull it out and let that water drain out. Not a big deal. It'll be easy to go ahead and put back together later. Chlorinators, not such a big deal. What's going to happen now that we've broken the seal we've basically eliminated the vacuum of what we've got. All this water is going to go down the pipes and seek the level of the pool. That's what water does. It always seeks the level. So by not having this anymore vacuum sealed into our plumbing system up here, it's just going back down through the pipes, ending up in the ground and seeking the same level as the water in the pool. And that's what we want. That's deep enough to make sure that we're not going to have any freeze issues when, we have those extended periods for maybe 48, 72 hours where it's going to be below 32 degrees. So having said that, that's how you go ahead and you drain out your system. The one thing that I will include in this is, depending on how long your cold snap goes, it's really important that we don't lose these plugs, and also that we don't introduce any sort of sand or grainy stuff, anything in here. The smallest little thing can cause these not to seal. So I recommend, once we've broken the seal on everything in our pump equipment and we've drained it all down, just go ahead, and you don't have to tighten them, but just so that you don't lose them, go ahead, give them a couple turns of threads back into where they go. That'll make sure you don't lose them, they don't go anywhere, and they don't get contaminated by anything. The whole process of draining this pool equipment goes just about as fast as you've seen. In this video, as we've gone through and drained everything down, that's as long as it takes. You don't have to leave them open for hours. Once that vacuum seal is broken, the water's gonna seek its level, you're pretty much done at that point. So now we're to the spot where we've drained things out, our cold snap is over, we're ready to get the pool up and running again. So let's talk about the process, because it's not super complicated, but there is a couple steps that you want to make sure that you get done so that you don't cause any damage and so the pool just starts right back up. The first thing is, all of these plugs that we have just kind of turned in a quarter turn or so, let's go ahead and just double check, because weather may have happened. Double check that each one of the washers are completely clear. Everything on your entire pool system is very sensitive. It's all made to be hand tightened and depends on clean gaskets making contact with clean faces in order to make sure that there's a good solid vacuum seal. Our Jandy pumps here move anywhere between 90 and 120 gallons a minute, so that's a tremendous amount of pressure. The smallest grain of sand can cause a problem. Just go ahead and double check these, and then as each one of them look good, go ahead and screw them in. And just like I mentioned a second ago, everything on your system is hand tightened. Do not get tempted to go grab a big, heavy pair of pliers or anything else if you have something leaking. If you have something leaking, it's not because it needs to be tightened more, it's because there's something blocking it. And again, smallest grain of sand, you'd be shocked. So it's really important to go ahead and snug every one of these up. They're all hand tightened. And especially this one tends to be the notorious one on this cartridge filter. You want to make sure you put a lot of effort into that one because there's a lot of pressure that goes through that, and that does like to come out that plug. But just go back through everything that you have taken a drain plug off. You want to go ahead and tighten the drain plug back on. In this situation here, our last guy is going to be the UV. We're going to go ahead and close our valve back off and tighten our cap back on, hand tight. Okay, so now we're in a position where we're ready to kind of get the system going. This is the most important part you have to know. These pumps are self-priming, assuming there's water in the bowl. But when we just drained that entire pump out, there is no water in the bowl. We need to make sure that we go ahead and refill that before we do anything. So we're gonna go ahead and just take a hose, and we're gonna put our hose right into the pump. And this is refilling our whole pump chamber. It's filling our pump bowl. You're bringing the water up to the level where it begins to go back into the inlet pipe. And even after it starts going back into the inlet pipe, let it go for a couple seconds. You're making sure that whole plumbing area is just filled up with water. But once you get to this point, then you can go ahead and shut it back off again. And once you've shut it off, remove your hose and go ahead, and we want to put our cover back on. And again, this has a gasket inside here. Just make sure it's not rolled, it's not weird. I kind of usually just press it back into place. Again, anytime you're taking anything apart on this, you're always wanting to get in the habit of just look at your gasket and look at the face of where your gasket's gonna sit. Make sure everything's clean and clear and you'll never have a problem. Put your cap back on, and it's a snug turn, good to go. At this point in time, what's going to happen is we're gonna start this pool back up, and it's gonna have to reprime through all of the systems, so it's gonna take a hot second for that to happen. In that time, you're gonna see the air that was introduced into our system start blowing out the different returns. This is all part of the normal priming process that you're gonna have. And if you're good about pool maintenance, you usually see this when you're changing out your filter or cleaning out your filter and system. So we're gonna go ahead and get this started. And we're gonna come over here. Remember that you've left this open. This vacuum bleeder is open on your cartridge filter. And we're gonna go ahead and leave that open so that just like when you're cleaning, it can blow the air out. And once we see water stream out, we know we're solid again with our seal. We're gonna let that take place. And then just go ahead and close it. And once you've closed it, you're ready to go. And now this is just a matter of going around and making sure that everything is sealed. So we wanna look at everything we took apart. The first thing we wanna look at is the rim around the dome. That looks good. Then we wanna come around and we wanna look at where our plugs were. We don't wanna see any dripping occur there. Dripping on this area here. If it's close to the ground, put your finger underneath it, make sure there's no water dripping down on you. Come check every single one of these. We wanna make sure is not having any dripping occurring. And then once we've done that, and we can ensure that nothing is dripping, everything is nice and tight, you're restarted. It's that easy. Your pool's gonna go through a priming process no matter what your schedule is set and whatever's going on, it's gonna go through a priming process, gonna knock all that stuff back out of there, and then it will resume the cycle and the schedule that you have programmed for it. This is how to protect your pool when you get into these cold snaps. It is super, super important that you take this seriously. We had a couple years back a major cold snap that lasted almost 2 weeks straight in Texas, and everybody's equipment that didn't follow these instructions had to be replaced. Valves broke, heat exchangers broke, that the power of water when it freezes and expands is amazing, and it will break all these plastic parts. So guys, as long as you follow these directions, you're gonna be in a position where you never have to worry about your cold snaps happening. And now you kind of have a bit of a guide to know exactly how to get that taken care of, protect your pool equipment. We'll see you on the next one.